Good morning, everybody. Dave Schmidt along with Matt Nestor and producer Tom Warner. Let's get right into this. Big story this week in Illinois, Freeburg. Their nickname, and we're not going to use it very often. They're called the Midgets, and this week it was a big story, and the Little People of America went and had a petition and presented it to the people in Freeburg. And with us, a very special guest, and luckily she's on the East Coast because she gets up a little bit later this way, Leah Smith, and she's the Director of Public Relations for the Little People of America. Hey, Leah, great to have you on today, and thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You know, when we look at this whole situation, it went national after you guys presented the petition over there at Freeburg. Were you expecting that, and were you ready for all the attention it was going to give you guys?
No, we were not expecting that at all. And, while it worked out, it wasn't something that we had planned in any way.
You know, people love their tradition, whether it's offensive or not. What kind of feedback do you get when you present something like this? You know, for people's reasonings, I guess, not to want to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, and I understand that this is something that's been going on. I've read about the history of it, that this has been going on for a long time, and it's more of a David and Goliath kind of story that, and it's part of the community, and that their intention is no harm. However, you know, unfortunately, we don't always get to decide what is harmful and what isn't. And so the term is harmful to our community, and it's objectifying and hurtful. And so while we understand that that's not what they mean by it, it's still the fact of the matter of what it is. And so that's kind of the reason behind why we approached them about this is, you know, we understand, but it's time for a change. This is not something that needs to continue. It's the root of bullying and other harmful things that we're trying to change in society right now.
You know, when you talk to these people, do they seem to, I don't want to say ignorance, but do they seem to be, you know, just not aware of how or why something like this is offensive?
Absolutely, and that was the main thing that we got out of the board meeting this last week was I think people just didn't know. And so if nothing else, I don't think that it was a failure at all. We educated. And that's a success to us. I mean, people, unless you know about a community, you don't know what's harmful and what's not.
You know, Leah, go ahead, Leah, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
You know, when you look at this, we were talking, Matt and I were talking before we went on the air, there are 6 other schools that have the same mascot. Will you be asking them also to change? I mean, there's a couple in Wisconsin, and we're just like 10 miles from the Wisconsin border. Are you going to be getting a hold of those people too?
Yeah, we've actually been in contact with them already. So they're very aware. And from the feedback that we've gotten, they're considering the same changes.
You know, are you surprised that people do want to fight this sometimes as well? We were kind of talking in between during the breaks here about how, you know, people will fight these things and you know, spend all this money, and ultimately they end up usually changing them anyway. Are you surprised that people have so much fight once they figure out, you know, that something like this is offensive?
You mean on the opposite side?
That they don't want to change. Are you surprised that they fight it as much as they do?
No, not at all. I mean, none of us like change. It's you know, we're used to something, and we've never thought about it. And you know, I'm from a small town of the high school Bulldogs, and it's a part of who I am. And so I get it. It's change is hard. And so if someone came in and said the Bulldogs is offensive, you know, because of my experience, I think that I would definitely listen and hear them out. But I get it. I really do. I get that it's a hard change. But I think when it's affecting a group of people is when you have to give it a little more thought.
We're talking with Leah Smith, the Director of Public Relations for the Little People of America. You know, we were also talking before we came on the air about message boards, and I sent you a link. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, or if you didn't want to look at it. Yappy.com out of Ohio. And the people were very, very rude and they didn't understand, you know, what it was. They made jokes and stuff. That's kind of some of the stuff that you really want to avoid in the future, is people having an opportunity every time they hear that mascot to make those kind of remarks, isn't it?
Absolutely. And, I didn't look at that one specifically, but I've looked at plenty in the past. And, that's the root of where we're headed here. We're looking for more respectful language towards people. And, I don't know if you're aware of how this all started, but so Freeburg sells their merchandise to anyone that purchases it. And someone bought it in California at a high school there, showed up, and one of the teachers happens to be a mom of a little person. And the student walked in with the Freeburg midget apparel on, and the teacher said, "Where did you get that?" And he said, "Oh, isn't it funny? Isn't it hilarious?" And she said, "No, that's not funny." And she emailed us immediately and said, "We have to do something about this. This is not funny. They're purchasing this because they think it's funny. They're not purchasing it to support Freeburg High School." When a student in California is buying it, it's not because they're buying it because they have a lot of school pride.
And I got to imagine that's the bigger concern because, I'm sure the people of Freeburg, as you said, it's not that they're trying to do anything offensive, but then you have, the other schools that they play and things like that, I'm sure a lot of those people do say, boy, that's funny, and probably make their jokes. And that's what you're probably really trying to avoid more than anything, correct?
Exactly. We're just trying to change the culture of that.
And I wrote to the IHSA, that's the State Association for High School Athletics in Illinois, and Matt Troha was nice enough to send me a statement. He says IHSA membership has never sought to apply rules on mascots or team names, so given that remains a local school district matter. Would you hope that maybe state associations might start stepping in and help with that a little bit?
Yeah, I think, I think we started in a good place. I think we started a conversation, and that's how any change starts, is just through a conversation. And so, I think whether someone steps in or whether we just continue talking about it, this is exactly where we need to be.
Beyond, just obviously educating people, and whatnot, and wanting them to change the name, what kind of solutions do you give to people to maybe try to come up with a new name? Because, people, especially in these small towns with their high schools and whatnot, they do take their names, very seriously.
Right. I'm sorry, I didn't hear what kind of...
So I guess, what kind of solutions do you offer to try to maybe point them in the right direction?
For this, there's all kinds of different options we could go with. There's even people within the community that have offered to give their graphic design services for free for new logos and all kinds of things. So I think that there's all kinds of solutions out there. I think that Freeburg could be the home of a million other things that would be perfectly great. Yeah,
and 15 years ago, they tried to change it over to the Blue Rage, and people wouldn't go for it.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, so that didn't work, but maybe they could do that again. And, if you do look at the logo that they have, the mascot, it's not very nice towards little people. I'll have to admit that. It's kind of a grumpy old guy, and he looks pretty nasty to me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I have to agree with you. I don't think that it's representative of our community, and just to give people a little bit of a history on the term. So the term midget came from back in the 30s when freak shows and circuses were very popular and a main source of employment for people in our community, and they termed that as a way of getting attention. And so we've come a long way since the 30s, and we're now doctors, lawyers, professionals, moms, dads, whatever, and we want the terminology to reflect who we are.
Leah, thanks so much for being on. We're up against the clock. We'll be keeping in contact with you, okay?
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
You bet. That's Leah Smith, Director of Public Relations for the Little People of America, talking about Freeburg. We're going to take a time out. We'll be back. We'll talk some high school football with Beth Long in just a moment here on the State Line Sports Hour on News Talk 1440 WROK.